Supposed to have my starting screen. What's going on here? Let's see. No. There we go. I don't know why I'm in there. I'll be starting pretty quick here. Hey, everyone here's here. Everyone who's here early. Let's see. Okay, hopefully this is working. Let's see. What am I doing wrong here? Sorry. Welcome to Evidence-Based Audio number 176, and this is 0 Point Energy. And we got something really special for this episode. We have a special sponsor, a new sponsor, and this is the Hawaii Knot Tourism Board. And the Hawaii Knot Tourism Board would like you to encourage you to not come to Hawaii. We love you here. It's going to hurt me. It's going to hurt my family. It's going to hurt my friends. It's going to hurt my relatives. But we'd encourage you not to come for a little while because Hawaii has a pig problem. And I know we don't like to get political on this show. And sorry to you guys who were more upset by the fact that I use the word pig than the fact that maniacs are running around there hurting people. Maniacs with a monopoly on violence. Maniacs carrying guns. We're doing very, very bad things to the people of Hawaii. And that's what I like to say. Don't come here for a little while. Make us hurt because people are sick of the pigs. Let's just put it that way. Sorry to have to start it out on such a note, but this is my life, and I'm having to suck something up. You guys know I will fight things till the very end. I am tenacious, and I'll stay on it. But I'm worried that these pigs will hurt the people I love, so I'm sucking it up. So sorry to start on such a sour note, but that's my life right now. So please, don't come here. Make it hurt. Make this state just bleed some money until they take care of these corrupt police. Anyway, so let's get on with the show. Sorry about that, but I really had to say it. And it's really affecting how I'm living right now. So sorry. Steve Bouchard's neck through. Okay. Yeah, hi, Steve. If you're here, that'd be awesome. Okay, so there is a little thing I was talking about on Facebook, and this comes up in the forums constantly. So I just said, enough. Tell me specifically what is so magically better about super high-end Fenders and Gibsons versus an Epiphone or a Squier or whatever, and be specific. There's this idea out there that in other fields, we call this the golden age myth, that maybe like Atlantis or whatever, like there's some allegedly superior civilization that sunk into the sea, but once upon a time there was a golden age. There was a golden age of Islam, there was a golden age of Greece and Rome and everything else, that they were just so much better then, and everything's been downhill ever since then, which is totally not true. Things improve over time. I know some things get worse, but in general, things do, depending how we want to measure better, they do tend to get better over time. And there's this idea that the Fender Strat in some old pre-CBS or whatever, and these old Les Pauls and other Gibsons, there's something magical about them. And then even today, when you buy the special one that says a certain number or name on it, that it's somehow superior. And of course it's subjective. There are reasons you might want to say superior. Maybe you just like the way Les Pauls look. That's one thing. But when it comes to measurable stuff, what really kills me is that there are they were $100 after this crazy Backstreet Boys reunion tour and all the chip shortage and everything. I think they're like $200 now. But Dean makes a guitar for $200 if it doesn't have to be neck through, if it's bolt on, which of course a Strat is, right? A Fender Strat is a bolt on, and the Les Paul is a glue on, I think, and it doesn't even matter because that block is so hard. You may as well be a bolt on. In fact, I've seen bolt ons with better upper fret access than the Les Paul's neck joint there. I don't understand why these things are the gold standard. Okay. If you look at, if it's the guitar you want to play, it's the guitar you want to play. But I would say that there are guitars that'll do exactly the same thing, but better, for longer, for cheaper. But really, that's if it's down to that much subjectivity, fine. But pick any area of the guitar, and there will almost surely be a $300 or less guitar that will smoke the absolute best ever made out of all these other ones, unless they use the exact same parts, which then fine, but still you could have got it way cheaper. So I'm thinking like the Dean Vendetta, for instance. It's really good upper fret access, 24 jumbo frets, really good fret wire. I would have expected some crappy fret wire in that thing, but that's not the case. 24 jumbo frets, they're pretty well dressed. Like, I've never seen a bad Vendetta. Somebody says, Carl Greger saying, I think the argument is about screwbacks. Higher priced guitars generally aren't. Lower priced guitars have 4 bolts keeping the neck on. That's not true. The highest, I'm just going to type this. The highest priced Strats have bolts. The cheapest toy guitars that are bolt-on often have better neck joints. By far. I think Fender did do a couple decent neck joints, though, didn't they? Don't they have a let's see if there's a Fender neck joints. Let's see if there's something. I thought they had like a metal Strat or something like that that would let you really get on there. Fender didn't. I thought Fender had done some kind of nice. Let's see. Here's 5 electric guitar neck joints that you need to know. So there's a horrible block thing, like the Fenders have. I mean, these are horrible. It's like this big old block. It's garbage. And then there's like a, what do you call the smooth, the contoured ones. And of course, there's neck through. There's set necks, like that's what they call a set neck on a Gibson, like a Les Paul. Anyways, Yeah. So in fact, like if we were going to compare the most expensive Strat ever made to a Vendetta, the Vendetta's got better upper fret access. Never mind, the Vendetta also has 24 frets, and most of these Strats only got 21 or 22 or whatever. I think that might be a personal preference thing, but I'm not going to say that 21 frets or whatever is superior to 24. I'll take the 24 every time, but that's probably subjective. We're talking about the quality of tuners. The very most sought after tuners on either of these guitars are total pieces of crap. And you guys all know this. These are garbage. You can go ahead, scream till you're blue in the face, but even the crappiest machine tuners on one of these cheapo guitars is going to annihilate it for tuning stability, just for staying put, honestly. And then, of course, you could always get Spurzels or something. The difference in price between one of these unobtainium guitars and any other guitar would really give you the ability to buy so many parts that it's just going to annihilate it. I mean, think of getting like something like Spurzels or some other good locking tuner set compared to this garbage tuners these things come with. The wiring, I mean, the old days had like that cloth wire stuff. Stuff was so noisy and just awful. Yeah, if we're going to do like signal to noise, we're going to beat the crap out of it with a cheap guitar, right? Construction techniques. I know you guys love this handcrafted or whatever on these guitars, but if you watch the Korean guitar fanatics making guitars, like actually the guys who actually make a lot of these guitars and they put different names on them, they're some of the best workmen you've ever seen. The quality of parts is so much higher on these cheaper guitars usually than, I've seen like crappy tremolos on some really bad guitars before. You see bad bridges from time to time, but at this point it would, unless you're making like Floyd Roses and stuff, it'll take you more money to make a crappy bridge than a good one, I would think. And I think it's something like, it'd be something akin to mic preamps or whatever. I don't understand. It's hard to say. It's not just that. To me, the guitars are inferior in every objectively measurable way. I don't understand why they're held up as the pinnacle. I understand that a lot of people like to play them, but when I watch the guys actually, when you watch some of the guys who talk about these guitars that way, they wouldn't be caught dead playing one of these guitars. They're playing all these super high performance things and stuff. It's kind of a weird thing. I just wonder what makes these the pinnacle. Like, really? Is it just tradition? Is it just your typical Me Too-isms? Let's see, and pickups too. Yeah, I don't know if Squiers still have Seymour Duncan slapped on. Yeah, some of the some of the pickups that come on these cheapies are great. And I'm just saying, this is kind of real time. People are responding in the comments here. And I'm saying some of the cheapies have far better pickups than any vintage guitar ever had by any measurable standard. I would, Steve Bouchard is saying neck through body, and like, you know me, I'm notorious for keep getting these damn neck through body things, and they're so heavy, and they cost so much more, but I love them. And I watch guys like Steve Vai, whose like main guitars are these, they have a really good upper access neck joints, but they're bolt-ons. The bolt-ons are so much lighter. It's kind of incredible. So maybe I think about the bolt-ons much. So let me see what all people said. See, from Samuel Chandler, my cheapo Squier that I built and the Epiphone I just customized are my gig guns. Yep. Michael Gonzalez, the Tonewood, and they're made in a different geographical location. The factory is made of Tonewood too. That is the ultimate answer right there. And lots of times it's people will say, oh, it's where it's made. And look, I am a hyper patriot. I am very proud and very happy to be a citizen of the country with the first secular founding document on earth. And I know we have excellent craftsmen, but anybody who loves the guitar could build a good guitar no matter where they are. The Koreans have proved it. The Japanese, holy crap, the Japanese went nuts in the 80s and 90s building the most unbelievable guitars. And now the Indonesians are being given a chance, and everything I've seen so far is pretty incredible. So I wouldn't worry about where it's going. John Griswold, resale value to a non-guitar player. That's all I have. And if you ever go around, speaking of Hawaii again, go to the doctor's offices here, and you'll see like a Les Paul or whatever. One they got off of eBay for like, no joke, $40,000 to $60,000. Like somebody's old Les Paul or whatever, famous Les Paul, Rockstars one or whatever. And they're hanging in the office. I always ask, hey, you know how to play that? Like, no, but one day I'm going to take it down and learn. Let's see. Dan says, my buddy has 5 high-end Gibsons. They're all nice. I'll play my ESP or my Shuriken. Got a really nice Ibanez too, but virtually nothing is different, and I don't understand the markup. Dom McSweeney. Capitalism, basically. Consumer values, cheap labor, economic exploitation of markets, competition. That actually sounds like why you'd buy the cheaper one. Random labels like Made in America, Canada, UK, France, etc. make no sense other than how legal systems work in different parts of the world. Yep. We talked about that with Glenn Fricker not too long. I'm hoping you guys are going to get to hear this. But yeah, the policy-wise, what happens when you have things made in certain places, it's something to consider. But it's not to do with quality. And then Dom continues, as for functionality, sometimes it's about the quality of the parts used, yep, or attention to details, yep, which makes things higher in value. However, again, some of these cheaper guitars have way better parts, way more attention to detail. As far as I can tell, they're built better. I mean, you guys tell me, how many videos have you sent my way? Like, I don't even care about this stuff. How many videos have you sent to me about how Gibson did some bad guitar or Fender painted something wrong? To me, it doesn't even look any worse than the ones that are supposedly good, but it's not like they're getting it 100% either. The words quality and value are a very debatable topic. And interesting that you're questioning this, but also recent posts about China and imported products. Combine these factors and you'll quickly understand the answer, good or bad. Honestly, in this case, I don't think it has anything to do with it. To me, the Squiers just feel cheap, and that affects your playing. I say there's Ken McLaren. Oh, yeah, that was Ken McLaren. And Dom says there's definitely a difference between playing a Squier versus a Fender, possibly less of a difference between high-end Squiers versus low-end Fenders, but yeah, I agree. I think that's just all in the setup, but I guess, so I had specifically worded this probably the wrong way where I said versus an Epiphone or a Squier. I mean, really, it's versus any other guitar. See, Trey says, I look at it the way of an audio console comparison, say between an X32 and an M32. They're both made by the same parent group with the same features. Yeah, see, I got a little bit too specific about the Squier and the Strat. Yeah, see, Jack says, nothing. As a recording engineer, you know better than anyone, and with the few exceptions like kids' guitars sold at Walmart, it's the person playing and the pedals they're using. Yeah, I don't even know if it's the pedals they're using. Eric, not a hell of a lot, and the Eppies and such can be modded and to be awesome and still be less than the old boys. Yeah, there's no guitar on the planet that you couldn't take the difference in money between one of these vintage guitars and whatever it cost and turn it into the best guitar in the world, because for that price you could build 100 guitars from scratch and you'd still be coming in under budget. So Michael Diebler, nothing as far as I'm concerned. I have an OLP 5-string bass that I got from a musician's friend at an insanely cheap price because it supposedly was blemished. I know. Do you see my blemish? I have a blemish from Agile that is, I couldn't even find the blemish, and it was like hundreds of dollars off. Never saw anything wrong with it, and it wasn't long after it that I found out this bass was an officially licensed clone of a Music Man Stingray 5. Oh, I wonder if that's like the one I have. I got a 5-string Fender. It says Squier bass, but it's got active electronics, and it is badass, man. Let's see, from Chris. My Les Paul Custom is an Epiphone. The original nut is plastic, which I replaced with bone and holds the tune better. I also replaced the original pickups with SDs, and still you paid less than one of these vintage things. My ES339 is an Epiphone, same thing with the nut. My Telecaster is a Mexicaster. I think I replaced the nut on that too. And that's another thing. So, man, and we don't see it as much anymore, but it used to be that we used to have so much good stuff. I know everybody said cheap, it's made in Mexico, but when it comes to wooden products, the Mexicans made really good stuff. I don't care if you're talking about studio desks, guitars. There was a lot of woodworking tradition in Mexico, and the like some of these are entire villages that do this stuff. It's pretty incredible, actually. My shred guitar is an LTD MS 400 by ESP, made in Korea, and that I guarantee is made by World. After 15 years, the licensed Floyd was toast, so I replaced it with the Floyd Rhodes Special. Actually, isn't the Floyd Rhodes Special a licensed Floyd too? All their good guitars I gig with regularly. I have an ESP LTD. I don't know the difference between LTD and an ESP yet. I mean, they seem to cost the same damn money. And I think it's one of the last ones you could have gotten out of Korea. Chicago Music Supply, I think, is the ones who found it for me. Thanks for that, because there were no guitars at the time, and I wanted one more. And let's see. So, yeah, like I said, Steve's in, let's see if Carl... Yeah, I don't think. Let's see what we got. All right, so that's and this is often a thing that you hear about tube amps, and you know, like everything it's all based on it. Like the comparison is always a tube amp. Hey, I used to love tube amps. I mean, there's tube amps I like. But it's not like, you know, the best sound in my life that I ever had wasn't actually from a tube amp. It's usually just straight from software. And there's not a vintage tube amp out there that could. I mean, if you were to draw two Venn diagrams, I'm pretty sure one of them would say tone, and everybody would say everything's on the tube amp side on the tone side. But if you write anything else, channel switching, you know, all these different presets, you know, effects, a multi-effects processor is going to beat the crap out of your vintage tube amp. It's just weird what we hold up as our benchmarks. And it's always kind of tripped me out. Okay. Let's see. What else I have? Okay. So we talked a little bit, actually kind of talk about this a lot on the show. You know, keeping these Floyd Roses in tune. And, you know, over the years I've tried trem setters, and I was using a Geldo black box for a while. And we found a bunch on Amazon that had some good stuff. I want to read something from this blog. This is Innovation Fascinations. I'm not really sure what this is about, but it seems like the guy's a guitar player. And his page here, and this is going to take a while, so I'm sorry, but we're going to fly through this as much as we can. This is, let me get back to my chat. It says, so it's called Solving a 2-0 point tremolo problem. It says, I have a problem guitar. It pains me to say this because it is also one of my favorites, and I have had it for nearly 20 years. But it has a definite issue with tuning stability. In short, the tremolo, even though it's one of the double locking variety, licensed under Floyd Rose patents, and if we really want to argue licensed versus the real Floyd Roses, well, I'd love to do that show one day. Doesn't reliably return to tune when you release the tremolo arm. Sometimes it is objectionably out of tune when at rest. And so anybody who has a floating tremolo, you know the problem. And we've said it in this show before. I don't care how you feel about these things. The bridge comes to rest when the spring energy from the claw down here is the same as the string energy from the strings pulling on the tremolo. Wherever that stops, that's where that energy was. Now things can bind up and you can end up wrong, but in theory, if everything is perfect and there's no binding, there's no problems, whatever, your tremolo comes to rest when spring tension equals string tension. And because of that balance right there, there is so crazy much that can go wrong. And that's what we're talking about here. So he says, obviously this causes some issues when playing the guitar live or even when recording. There is a finite risk that the next note you play will be out of tune. That tends to constrain your playing technique because you keep trying to re-zero the tremolo manually through the tremolo arm, so it limits what you attempt to play on it. And, you know, recently I've blocked my guitars to dive only, and then even more recently I finally made fully floating guitars, which I've never had in my life. And my ESP is still fully floating, but all the other ones I've been trying to, I put a backstop on it actually. I saw a video of Steve Vai playing one, and I'm like, man, that guy does all kinds of crazy tremolo. I didn't really ever want to try that one before, but I saw that they're all on Amazon for cheap, and so I just got one in one of my guitars, and I've been playing with it, and I have to say, it's working pretty good. I'm actually surprised, and so I'm going to be doing a lot more on that later on. But let's go. Let me get out of here. That's a bad constraint to have when playing music. You need to feel confident that the guitar will remain in tune to play with any abandon or to take any musical risks with it. And this is why when I record, if I can block the tremolo, I will. And most of my guitars are still blocked to dive only, and those ones stay in tune perfectly. I wouldn't worry about them at all. Let's see what Don McSweeney says. American made versus import. Okay, I see what Don is saying. So he's saying, well, possibly not, but you speak of American made versus import, and the price difference is related to cheap labor. I'm going to say that I screwed up by using the examples that I did. So yeah, I'm gonna have to answer. Most of the American made seem to be imports as well, but really I screwed up by using the cheap examples I did. I should have said cheap guitars, which mostly beat the crap out of the old dinosaurs at any price. Okay, so let me go on with this. Sorry about that. Okay, let me the guitar bought in 1996, if I recall correctly, is a Korean-made Ibanez JS100 in transparent red, bought in Las Vegas on a whim. The guitar may have been built around 1994. I just can't tell from the serial number decoders available online. My serial number is formatted in a way that it isn't widely recognized, leading me to believe it was an early series guitar. It has some kind of early to mid-90s low TRS-2 tremolo fitted to it, I think. It is this beast that is causing all the trouble. The neck, body, and pickups are lovely. Only the tremolo misbehaves. This looks like one of the cheaper Ibanez tremolos. It's more flat. It's not the weird contoured looking ones. But these things kind of all work the same way. I know, yes, you can be stamped out of better steel and you have hardened edges to work a little bit better, but I can make this bridge work. This bridge is very decent. So he's got a lot of pictures of this. So it says it has a C in the serial name, which is the Cort factory. Now, Cort you might recognize from pianos, bass guitars. I'm pretty sure it's all the same. This World Music Company in Korea, I think they had Cort and some kind of Sam, one of these Sam names. But of course, all these, so many, like all the celebrity guitars you see putting out. I'm pretty sure Ola's was being done in World. I think they're being done in the Indonesian factory though, but I think Cort was the same company. Not sure though. The problem with the tremolo is that it's effectively 2 0 points. That is to say, if you pull the tremolo up, it returns to a different resting position compared to if you push the tremolo arm down. So this is a biggie. So he's fighting a very kind of an additional problem, but it can happen in any situation. Now this is the first time I'm reading it, but I'm kind of you're kind of predicting this whole thing. But there's always twists, and what he's saying is when you dump the tremolo and let go, it's a little bit different than when you pull up and let go, and to some extent. You're probably going to see that on any bridge. And there's several reasons for that. Mostly it's binding, though. And if you really look at the spring cavity, do I have an open guitar right now? Let me see if I can. Oh. Yeah, here we go. Let me see if I have a full webcam here. Okay, here we go. Now... So this one I have something like the Ibanez backstop in. I'm testing it out right now. I'm actually really liking it. I'm surprised that I'm doing things that I wouldn't think I'd be doing. But the springs could easily bind up. Maybe they're not in all the way. There's so many things that could go wrong just with the springs. And then like these two screws right here. This could shake around a little bit. There's so many things that could be wrong. Never mind the pivots. Of course, how do I do this? The nut, bind there. Even if it's a lock nut, there's a lot of things that can go wrong even with the locking nut. The pivot points here, of course. The saddle's right here. There's so many things that can go wrong. So many reasons this could be, and let's see which one or ones of the billions of reasons he's really having trouble with it. Resting the palm of your picking hand on the bridge can push the bridge toward the other 0 point where it sticks. A 0 point, I should explain, is supposed to be that position of the bridge where the tension of the strings and the tension of the tremolo springs return. Let me read this again. A 0 point, I should explain, is supposed to be that position of the bridge where the tension of the strings and the tension of the tremolo springs return to exact balance. There should only be one 0 point. You can only get 2 0 points if the fulcrum of the balance, the knife edges of the tremolo plate are not frictionless. Well, they're never going to be frictionless. And there's a reason some of these tremolos are cam-based, right? I mean, that's to get rid of that problem. There's another problem that causes, and I'll probably not go into that right now. But some of these cam-based tremolos, especially if you feel them, man, they are smooth too. And this is the thing, like people, when the Kahlers were out back in the day, the flush, not even flush, but the allegedly flush mount Kahlers back in the day, they had that, they were on a cam, right? They felt a certain way, really smooth, and you weren't necessarily going to have that knife point problem because there were no knife points. Okay. If there is any local minima where the friction characteristic is such that the tremolo would prefer to rest at a different balance point where the springs and strings do not exactly balance, then it will tend to stick there until you overcome the friction on the fulcrum that is preventing it from returning to its true 0 point. So, I mean, I guess you could go and file those knife points down if that's the problem. If you're having two different 0 points, I'm guessing something's binding somewhere. But could be those knife edges. All you got to do is have a little bit of a chip. And that thing will sit easier one way. And then if you pull it, it's going to go way out of the other way. So that's one thing that can happen. Let's see. So the next thing. This is a quite well-known problem with Fender-style tremolos, modeled after Leo Fender's now lapsed synchronized tremolo bridge patents. The fulcrum has to be frictionless for the bridge to return to tune reliably. In the older Fender design, you also had to have frictionless movement of the strings over the bridge saddles. Oh yeah, speaking of our cheap versus expensive guitars, don't even try to tell me that the Fender tremolo isn't a total piece of crap compared to... I mean, oh my God. There's just nothing about it that's good. The bar is so weak. It just flops around on you and stuff. But, Yngwie I don't think Yngwie does, but Richie Blackmore played one and it was good. I don't know. But come on. Okay, let me say this again. The fulcrum has to be frictionless for the bridge to return to tune reliably. In the older Fender design, you also had to have frictionless movement of the strings over the bridge saddles, the nut, and the string retainers on the headstock. Floyd Rose took those points of friction out of the equation entirely by locking the strings down at the nut and bridge, a great improvement. However, he was not able to eliminate the friction of the tremolo knife edge. And I'm really not that sure that locking at the bridge is that much different than just having the string go through it. I think with the tension and everything, if you really look at how a bridge works, locked or not, there's a flop point where it can still get a little bit floppy. So I'm not sure that one matters as much. And I've seen lock nut guitars, but with non-locking bridges, like the Wilkinsons and stuff, that actually do pretty damn good. Many readers will be thinking, why don't you just allow the bridge plate to return flat to the body like you can with the Stratocaster, over-tensioning the return strings so that a snug return to the right place is assured? So that's what we do when we do the dive-only mods. Like, even if you're recessed routed where you could pull back on it, you put a little block in there and it can't pull any further back. So he says, well, you can do that, but you lose the ability to tremolo upwards, part of my playing technique that I'm not keen on foregoing. And the angle of the JS100's neckwood would mean that you would have to mess around quite a lot to get the correct action again. The guitar is designed, well, but you really wouldn't. It wouldn't be hard for you to do this with the stopper. I mean, it wouldn't be hitting the body like these guys are talking about, but if to do it with the stopper, you could get it straight. But that's if you want to convert to dive only. The guitar is designed for a floating tremolo, and everything is aligned that way. It's really not that. That's okay. That doesn't matter maybe as much as you're thinking. Flattening the bridge onto the body would have some pretty seriously consequences for a setup. It's just not the sort of tremolo I want or the direction I want to go in. Even my Stratocasters are set so the bridge floats Jeff Beck style. In general, I think I only have one guitar that I haven't done this. I went to the internet to try and discover why people think the 2 0-point problem happens and to find their suggested solutions. I have to say that I discovered a great deal of misinformation or untested opinion. Welcome to the guitar playing world. And the reason for this show, because misinformation and untested opinion is the currency of the music industry. Never mind. I was going to say the internet, but people have been pushing stupid gear myths since long before Al Gore invented the internet. The causes claimed range from worn bridge posts to the posts not being lubricated to having fulcrum knives that were worn or badly machined at the factory, requiring extensive filing to resharpen them. I found this article telling you how to bring your bridge knife edges back to a finer point, and it was actually at Ibanez Rules, which I actually like this site. Is it bad? So he's showing some pictures from it, and he's showing the knife edges of a tremolo. And so he says, a close-up view means that the pivot point, the fulcrum of the bridge, is quite blunt. It doesn't come to a sharp point. That means the resting position of the bridge can be indistinct. And they show another point. Knife edge forms a semicircle. Okay, and it's supposed to contact the bridge post at just one point because the radius is... Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so when I... do I have a guitar with that stuff? I think the Floyd Rose Pro has that. How about the Floyd Rose Specials? Let me see if the original Floyd... Okay, no, the Floyd Rose Specials certainly do, but I think the original Floyd... Yeah, I don't know if you can see this, but, oh boy. So there's like a... You might have to just look at a tremolo. There's like a half circle for some of the pivot points on the tremolo, and he's bringing up a pretty good point that I actually asked Floyd Rose this and I didn't get a very good answer. He says this knife edge forms a semicircle and it is supposed to contact the bridge post at just one point because the radius of the semicircular knife edge is much larger than the diameter of the bridge post, as at the bottom of the post's V groove. Needless to say, this single point of contact theory is wishful thinking in practice. And if you've ever felt the side of there's kind of like a crunchy, gritty thing that you'll feel on some Floyd Roses. And often it's that side. It's the side with the little U shape in it, and it's grabbing parts of the side of the post itself. He's showing these things aren't too sharp. He's looking at the bridge post, and if you look in here, there's a V groove inside the bridge post. That's where the knife edge sits. And this is where it gets chunked up, especially by guys like me who try to do like a lot of guitar repairs with the tremolo still in there. It's yanking on that thing. So if these things aren't really hard, they start getting chewed up. But in general, they usually clean up pretty good. Above is a close-up of the bridge post. There's a V groove to which the knife edges sit. This is what the bridge pivots on. You can see that the bottom of the V is also quite rounded, leading to a potentially indistinct zero position. And these are asymmetrical. I'm not sure if they're always asymmetrical, but looking at this picture, you'll see that it's a little bit steeper on the top half and maybe a little bit rounder on the bottom half. It should be noted that the author of this article admits that even with the knife edges filed perfectly to a well-formed point, you may still find the bridge return sharp after pulling up on the tremolo arm. After experimenting with various lubricants, lip balm, which is a very waxy type of grease used to prevent lips from chafing, proved to be the most effective at semi-permanently lowering the fulcrum friction. In fact, the author found that you could get a good improvement on bridges that had not been filed or sharpened at all. Interesting. So I'm not sure if I ever tried this before, but I guess we go get some chapstick and wax all our parts with it. We used to use graphite, but I never used it on the posts. Interesting. Getting the wax in between the bridge post and the knife edge requires some dismantling of the bridge. I was going to ask, like, wait, am I going to do this again? Like, just grind things together? Just pop the springs, maybe pull it off. If the strings are already off, or some temporary rotation of the posts, place the grease and then returning them to the usual set point so the grease is now in the desired place. I think this is worth a try. Apparently, Joe Satriani's guitar tech, Gary Brower, a very experienced guitar repairer, uses the tricks on Joe's guitars to his entire satisfaction. I've had Floyd Rose style tremolos in guitars since the late 80s, when they were a relatively new idea, but old enough to have had some of their earlier drawbacks designed out of them and fine tuners added. I similarly had similar re-zeroing problems with my 1989 Kramer Focus 6000, fitted with the Schaller manufactured Floyd Rose licensed tremolo. I know everybody gets these weird things about Schaller, whatever the name of the company is. I think they build the official Floyd Roses, not the licensed ones. The main problem I had was that with light strings fitted, the bridge would sag noticeably when string bending and palm muting, but it would generally return to zero. That should happen on any string. You guys know that what happens when the tremolo is floating. You bend a string, you're changing the string tension. You're adding string tension. So because the tremolo is supposed to rest when spring tension equals string tension, the tremolo is going to move up as you're bending. Tremolo is said to sag if the tuning of the other strings goes flat when you bend a string. That's how floating tremolos work. Or if the tuning goes sharp when you rest the heel of your hand on the bridge. Again, sorry, but that's how floating tremolos work. I fixed the sag on my Kramer guitar with the Hipshot trem setter. So that was the early version of what we got now. And I tried. There's a picture of a trem setter here. And I had put these things on my guitars for years until I just decided to go dive only and try these Goldo black boxes and all that stuff. The trem setter was a bugger to install, requiring a new hole to be drilled in the body in line with the plane of the tremolo return springs to accommodate the mechanism sliding rod and replacement of the tremolo spring claw with a split claw arrangement. The trem setter also slows the action of the tremolo arm due to the added spring tension and because the movement of the trem setter's sliding rod through its nylon bushes meets with little resistance, causing the motion of the tremolo bridge to be damped. You can't do that gargle sound or boing the arm anymore, the flutter sound. For effect. The movement of the bridge becomes too stiff and slow for that. It does return to 0 point reliably, though, and permits extreme string bending without sag. Having installed it, I can now do double stop bends in unison without fear of detuning and dissonance. Before, the sound it made was horrid. I was happy enough with those compromises on the Kramer, but didn't want the same constraints on my JS100 or JS1000, whatever. She's showing a picture of a trem setter. And he's showing another picture of a disassembled trem setter. I think the real reason some of the bridges of this type fail to return to zero is quite a question of pure physics. In other words, I think it's fundamental weakness in the design. If you consider the mass of the fine-tuner components mounted to the bridge plate, components that the original Fender design did not have or need to consider, and their distance from the fulcrum point of the tremolo, I think they exert a significant moment of inertia on the differential spring versus string tension balance near the 0 point of the mechanism. I always wonder about this when you guys are buying those gigantic blocks, those giant Floyd Rose, things, the sustain block, the big ones, super heavy ones. Like, isn't that making the tremolo like if you shake the guitar, isn't that so heavy that's going to flop your guitar around? Otherwise, I don't think what this guy is saying is actually all that true. Remember that when the bridge is near 0 point, the strings and tremolo springs are at their most relaxed in aggregate. They are at their least extension. There's not a lot of tension left to overcome at that moment of inertia. They're not at their least extension. They're still stretched. The closer to the 0 point you get, the weaker is the restoring force attempt to re-zero the tremolo. That's true. The closer to balance you get, the less either side is exerting force, right? You can think of it like trying to balance a broom vertically upside down with this broom head in the air. You need a pair of very strong horizontal springs indeed, opposing each other placed close to the fulcrum to stabilize any movement of the broom head at the end of that very long lever, the handle. The slightest imperfection in the point of the broom handle acting as a pivot in contact with the ground would tend to make the broom want to stick in other positions, ignoring gravity for one moment. The mass of the head would tend to accentuate and exacerbate the effects of any additional unwanted friction at the pivot point. Essentially, the broom head's inertia would be fighting hard against the horizontal springs trying to rebalance the broom if disturbed from the 0 point. Relax both of these horizontal springs in opposition to another, and you can see that it would be even harder to maintain the 0 point position of the broom head. I think that's the situation you effectively have with light strings and a relatively heavy fine-tuner arrangement mounted to the bridge. Yeah, I mean, Floyd Roses aren't light, but I don't know how much this is really making it. So he's saying this is the use for my argument for the use of strong, lightweight fine-tuning components on the bridge. Actually, I think titanium is a better choice of materials to minimize their weight without compromising their function. Doesn't like Floyd Upgrades have an titanium bridge? Let's take a look. Let's see if we can find if there's a big weight difference here. I don't know if they make a complete titanium. Okay, so let's look at some of the couple things. So steel lock screws. Do they have a weight on them? No, there's no weight. See, without a weight, it's not really going to help. Let's see, how much does a titanium? I wonder if anybody actually put this. Yeah. How much does a titanium Floyd Rose weigh? I know they make titanium blocks. Let's see. Let's see if I want to read this whole thing. Okay, the original Floyd Rose bridge weighs exactly 1 pound. The brass block version weighs in at 1 1/4 pounds. So you're adding a quarter of its weight back in. And the titanium block version is an amazingly light 14 ounces. Oh, amazingly light. So you save 2 ounces? Isn't a pound 16 ounces? So all that weight, and you're only losing, well, you're losing 1/8 of it, right? 14/16 is, 1/8. You're losing 1/8 of the weight. It's not that much. I mean, not that I wouldn't mind losing a weight, an eighth of my weight, or an eighth of my bike's weight, but it's not that much lighter. Okay. So let's see. I searched the internet for more information about the Ibanez Low TRS tremolo and found the link that lists some of its shortcomings as weak cast base plate. So that's a problem. I've broken base plates before on tremolos. I've broken saddles before, even on the Floyd Rose ones. Not the steel Floyds, but on the actual, not licensed, but Floyd Rose specials, which are actual Floyd Roses, right? They're just not original Floyd Rose or whatever. Unserviceable integrated knife edge and beware. Essentially, this knife edge wear problem is a known weakness of this bridge design. Two interesting asides to this discussion are that Ibanez recently introduced an ultralight tremolo arm as an option. It comes standard on one of them, and the trend to fit heavier aftermarket tremolo blocks to Floyd Rose designs. Like we just showed, that one that made it a quarter heavier. The ultralight arm is said to reduce the bowing in the tremolo system. I've found that reducing the bowing effect was noted in the back box adjustment instructions, but more about that later. So he's he's going through this low TRS, and he's looking at the same kind of things as I am, and we're going to talk about a little bit. So there's Ibanez or ESP arming adjuster, whatever, Ibanez backstop, the Geldo black box, and there was like this WD one that didn't really work very well for me, and then I think Floyd Rose Upgrades has one. The ESP arming adjuster. So I just ordered a bunch of these things. They're all super cheap now. I mean, back in the day, I mean, not even 10 years ago, it was impossible to get this stuff. I think somebody claims they have a patent on something, and so a lot of these were hard to bring in. But the Geldo back boxes were actually doable not too long ago. You could get them. But these other ones are hard to get. And I got something like the backstop in that red guitar you just saw, but I have another one that's coming that looks very much like this arming adjuster, but in dual. So he's showing, there's a close-up of the Ibanez backstop. It looks like two arming adjusters on a single base plate. I imagine it's a bit a fiddle to adjust both springs correctly. I also wonder about the longevity of plastic parts. The ones I got were all made out of brass. There's no plastic parts in it, but I wonder that too. But I think they held up, honestly. You see, this is exactly what Steve Vai had in his guitar when I was watching these Guitar Tech videos. And I wonder, see, this is one of the questions I have. I've tried the single ones before, but before I really had a good idea of how to make them work. And then now that I have the dual ones, I really think I know how to keep the single ones working okay. And I wonder, do I really need this dual one? However, it wasn't that hard to get it to get these even. So far, it's working really well. So, and then Floyd Rose made some weird one. So Ibanez had something called the 0-point system. I'll read this. On some of my other guitars, I have unknown versions of the Ibanez ZPS system. I don't know if they're Mark 1 or 2 or 3. They accompany the Ibanez ZR Tremolo on my S-Series guitar, and I absolutely love using this tremolo design. It really is frictionless and always returns the correct 0-point no matter what kind of tremolo shenanigans you dish out to it. The ZR stands for zero resistance, and it truly delivers on this promise. Unfortunately, this tremolo isn't fitted to newer Ibanez guitars anymore, reportedly due to a patent dispute or royalty disagreement between Ibanez and a patent holder named Jeffrey Lee McCabe. Let's fix that, or let's get something for McCabe to do. This system is like a really hefty, beefy back box. I think we were talking about this last week. Let me get a picture of this thing in here. I mean, it is gigantic. It's a big old plate. It's really hanging on. It's got some giant springs. The return springs are about the same size as your regular tremolo springs, so there's quite a bit in there. And I really wonder what it feels like when you pull up. I've never tried one of these, but I imagine that it's going to, you push away from it, just like with these back boxes and stuff, and it feels fine. But then when you pull up, you feel it slamming into it. Let's see what else he had to say. The 0-point system, which installs in the tremolo spring cavity at the rear of the guitar, can be used with the edge tremolos and presumably with the low DRS. If you can obtain one and figure out how to fit into your tremolo spring cavity routing, you're probably going to have to route your guitar. Seemed like too big a modification to me, and you'd have to change the tremolo spring cover plate in the process to provide access to the ZPS adjustment mechanism. It's also difficult to buy just the ZPS part without buying a whole new tremolo assembly with it. Too hard. And so there's a maglock one, which looks interesting, but there's no adjustment for the counter tension. I'm going to be doing a lot more experiments of these things, and probably going to be taking a look a lot more at, and I think a lot of this is coming out of Joe Enemaker's site. Let's see what he ended up doing. So he's put a back box in here, and geez, looks like he put a Floyd Rose in there too. I know it's Ibanez. There's the back box, or black box, whichever. Showing how I installed it. And Nivea Essential Care seems a good choice of Tremolo Bridge Post Lubricant. I'm gonna go get some some lip balm, some chapstick or whatever, and we'll give this a try. I love dry grease. You know, it always makes me happy to not be putting WD-40 goo all over my parts, especially my bikes, because you get WD-40 on your brakes and you're screwed. Even Tri-Flow, whatever. This wax is like chain wax. I'm sure it's a good thing to try. I'll talk about that stuff a lot later on, but for right now, I had a wireless go bad. First time I tried to use it, kind of bummed. It's a wireless Line 6 G50 relay, and the first time I go to light it up and it's got a blank yellow screen, I'm sure Line 6 will take care of me. I'm really they've been responding to me, so I'm sure it's getting done. But I hate having the pouch and all that stuff, so I've been looking at these. Joyo's got one, Licato's got one. They're cheap. They're like $40, man, for these. For most of these, how come one's 40 and one's 58? I don't know. They're way cheaper. I could buy like 20 of them for the price of one of these Line 6 relays. The cool thing is there's no pouch. Let me show you. I'm charging them right now. I'm not sure if they're done charging. They can't be done charging already. How do you tell if they're done charging? Okay, I got a red battery. I'm assuming that means it's not charged. But you know what? Let's try it out anyway. So, one of the cool things about these is that oh, they're even shaped like guitars. Look at that. That's crazy. So you have this foldable thing, and some of you guys have seen these. There's been a lot of these cheap wirelesses lately with this kind of style. The coolest part to me, really, is that you just plug it right into your guitar. There's no pouch. I suppose these could fall out on a weak jack, but let's give it a try. So I'm gonna pop up Reaper, and now I tried the Joyo one out, which is 2.4 gigahertz, and I haven't yet tried this Licato out. So you guys are gonna find out with me. And I know Michael Diebler was asking about this, so we're gonna get this here. Channel 25. I'm gonna put Arma track and give it some kind of effect. And let's see if we can get this thing working. So one thing to notice is that these are TS, tip sleeve, not tip ring sleeve. So don't worry at all. I wouldn't think about using your active pickups, because it's not gonna unground your battery like you might with the TRS jack. Okay, so I'm gonna plug this into the guitar body here, and I guess you could put it any old way, like you fold it up that way, or I don't really know how this works. So I didn't read the instructions, which is probably a bad idea. I have to plug that end in, and then I'm going to plug I'm going to see if I can't plug the transmitter into the direct box over here. I'm not sure that I can. And I have to pair them somehow. So let me, there's a button here. Let's just assume that I'm supposed to press the Wi-Fi button and they'll pair each other. Oh, wow. Well, it's lit up. They're lit up solid green, so maybe that's already working. I'll plug this into my my DI box and see if I'm not sure that it's going to be able to, because the stuff's in the way. Oh no, there we go. That's it. No cables, no nothing. Plugged in. Okay, now this is an absolutely horrible environment for this Wi-Fi. Every single business around here there's so many sources of trouble around here. I'm going to hit record on this just so that I can see it, because I'm going to want to know when and where this thing dropped out. Hopefully you're hearing... Yep, hopefully you're hearing my guitar. And like I said, I'm going to hit record. Let me just save this real quick so I have a place where I'm recording too. Oh, I've been having the most trouble with hard drives lately. I'm hoping they're not all failing on me. Yeah, like I can't even get to my recording drive. Great. All right, something to delete. There we go. So I'm just gonna hit record. And let's see how these things work. Now I'm going to go through so many different wireless routers on the way out here. Like as soon as I open my door, I'm going to be behind so much junk. Like this is kind of, yeah, this isn't really ideal. But if you're in line of sight with this thing, I'm sure it'll work way better. But I expect some serious dropouts in a second. Actually, let's see if we can hear anything really awful about this. Oh, I'm messing with my Helix floor unit. I'm trying to change snapshots. There's no... Here we go. Okay, you hear a little bit of fuzzy, like distortion stuff. Now that might be stuff that, because I'm boosting the hell out of so much treble, that might actually not be this thing making trouble. I'm looking at some flat spots. Then again, I'm using the Seymour Duncan blackouts, and that's not really the kind of pickup that you should be trying to play clean through, but I think this thing's distorting. Might be distorting. I'm not sure. Sure is quiet. Turn off these noise gates. Expect a lot more noise here. We're gonna see about this distortion level. I wonder if this thing's distorting. I may be putting way too hot of a signal into this direct box too. Or it could be the battery's dead on this old guitar. I'm gonna plug something else in real quick. Put my red guitar in. Again, though, these aren't exactly the kind of pickups you should be playing clean through, but I don't think they should distort like that. That sounded weird. Actually, I just heard the same sound too. What is that? Yeah, look, it's very asymmetrical. I don't know if that's the pickups or if that's the this wireless, but I swear I didn't hear this on the Joyo. Okay, let's solve that problem later. I'm just gonna flip it back on the distortion. I'm just gonna let's see how bad this thing drops out, because this is about to get ugly in here. Interference wise. So here we go. I'm gonna turn this up so I can hear it. So sorry, you guys on the mic, but I want to be able to hear it when I'm out. Okay, I'm going behind a metal door now. Okay. So let me tell you, I went behind my metal door, and then I went outside the metal door out there, which is a big roll-up warehouse door. So I'm just going to listen back and see if we got... There's one part where I think maybe there's a dropout. What is that? Oh, that's interference from something else. That little clicking and popping you heard wasn't actually the recording. Yeah, man, there's something's burping my audio, but it's not recorded. You see, looking at this, that asymmetrical wave. Boy, whatever's burping my audio, I'm pretty sure it's OBS, but okay, looking good. Let's take a look. Let's see if I have one more thing. Let me compare this with the Joyo, the 2.4 gigahertz one, if I can find it. I don't know if I have it handy. What did I do? I think I stuck. Did I give it a bag or something? Yeah, you know what? These things need a bag. Want to see. So my pedalboard bag, I have all my wireless junk in it. Want to see. Here's the Joyo one. Okay, so same thing. It's got like a USB charger with 2 ports on it that'll charge these up. So very ergonomic. I mean, just kind of mind-blowingly so to me, actually. But I might stick these in boxes so that I can actually put them in there. This is kind of dangerous to put them in this way. So let's do the same thing here. Now I know I played these clean, so if it distorts again, I'm really thinking this is the it's just not a good idea to use with the DI. So these are kind of cool. Look like they turn into Batman. They have the Batman eyeball things. So let's turn this. These guys are gonna get recharged. Which one's the? This is the receiver, so I'm plugging it in. I'm gonna put this on the transmitter on the guitar, and hopefully remember to turn this stuff off. Okay, here comes the transmitter, and I really want to just check the clean. And I think there's something weird about this clean. Like, if it's still weird, maybe I'll plug a cable in and we'll take a look. Okay, so I'm getting nothing. Oh, I'm disarmed now. Okay, there we go. Okay, one thing I think I have to say, I got to measure this to be sure, but I think the latency may be lower on this Joyo than the other one. See, there's distortion here too. I wasn't getting this through the amp. I don't think my DI likes this. Let me see if there's a way I can just plug straight in. No, I can't. But I'm telling you, I'm not getting this distortion through an amp. That's a lot of distortion. You know, there's a chance these things just can't handle active pickups, but might be my distortion, my direct box, which is a really good one, so it shouldn't be, but who knows. We get more into these experiments next time. Let me have some things to take care of around here, but remember, as much as I'd love to see you guys here, please don't come to Hawaii until we clean up our pig problem. I know you don't want to hear that on an audio broadcast, but it is a problem. And it's not something we should be suffering from here. I'll see you guys later.